Hello and welcome back to Tim's.
You fucked it up already. Talking about Tiny Tim's Tambourine.
Welcome to Tiny.
Talking about Tiny Tim's Tambourine.
Alright, play the theme.
And that's our theme every week we'll be recording this, so better get in for the ride.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you, considering this is our first episode, I'll give you a rundown on the formula. So what happens is two best friends meet in a room. Take it.
In a room? Why did you stop? Okay,
Take it from there.
two best friends, we meet and we just discuss about what our problems are, how we feel in the society. Society's a big one.
We sort of just bring an aspect of each of our days and we discuss that.
Yep.
Along with many tangents, many news stories, many, such as societal issues and political issues. So, who would like to start? You or I?
I'll start with the great, fantastic, based on true events documentary we saw today. Chasing Great.
Chasing Great. Very proud to be a New Zealander. Very proud indeed. Since this is your sort of topic, would you like to give a rundown on what Chasing Great is?
Well, Chasing Great's about the Rich McCaw, the biggest goat of all time.
And for those that don't know, goat is...
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. He's the greatest goat of all time.
He's the greatest goat of all time.
Okay, yes.
And really it's just about his story and his
endurance.
I'll tell the description, thank you.
Okay.
It's about how he started as a little boy from Canterbury. And he wasn't too good, he wasn't too fit, but he had the determination that no one else had on the rugby field.
Definitely did.
And he just had the drive and he had the goal to be a GAB. And that's not to be confused with a DAB, a dab. He wanted to be a great All Black.
But I'm sure he does dab.
Oh, he definitely dabs.
Dabs.
And this movie, it's
I'm
really...
sure he tabs as well.
He goes to the TAB, places bets on himself, I bet he does.
No, tabs of acid.
Oh.
Well, yeah. But still. GAB, did you explain what that was?
Yeah, it's the great All Black.
He's a great All Black.
In 2001, he became an All Black.
He became an All Black.
Was he a great All Black yet? No.
Where to from there?
Yeah. Only one place. He's done everything on his list, but be a great one.
And, in fact, his first year as captain, he wasn't a great All Black.
No.
Apparently. I don't know much about the sport, but I do know, from what I saw in this documentary, he was not a great All Black.
I would even go as far to say he was a disgrace to the country.
Yeah, well, a lot of people did go that far.
A lot of people did indeed.
In 2007, what happened was he lost the World Cup rugby.
Single-handedly.
Lost the World Cup to France.
In France?
In France, yeah. Was that... Now, was that the first time in 20 years? Or just... He just lost, and it wasn't, shouldn't have been too big.
Well, I think that was their lowest placing in a World Cup ever.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were key to win it as well. That was the big thing. It's not just that they lost and did the worst ever. They were the big boys, the number one of the TAB to win.
He got a sore foot at one point.
He fractured it. He didn't even know the week before whether he would be playing.
But he played, and he played, and boy, did he play.
Yeah.
He won. Single-handedly. From what I'm led to believe through this documentary.
That was at the 2011, on home soil of Eden Park. Mm-hmm. And didn't he go on record saying that Eden Park was his favourite place to play?
I believe so. He said that a lot about a few places, though.
He did say he loved playing... Well, the thing about Richie...
South Africa.
The thing about Richie that I discovered is that he's just so humble.
Oh, you got to admit, he's one of the most humble men. If not the most humble New Zealander.
They might as well call him a hote. Humblest of all time.
Yeah, I was sort of on my brain the whole time. But that's actually... a lot of people do say that he's humble. And
I've heard that. The buzz as we were leaving the theatre was that he's very humble.
Yeah. But I would disagree with that, considering this movie.
The thing I love about the man is that he's not just a rugby man. He's got other hobbies.
Oh, many.
He goes planes. He's a big fascination with planes, and he goes on these planes a lot. He flies up and he escapes his mind, all the stress of the rugby, it all leaves him, and he can just focus on his planes, and I really appreciate that.
Yes, he glides up and it's sort of like he's leaving the world behind.
Definitely he does. He leaves the world behind.
His second hobby, though, probably is most interesting.
I feel like we shouldn't say his second, because it was the only ones that he showed in the film. I'm sure he's very complex, and the hour and a half that they gave to this documentary didn't give enough time to develop the full narrative to Richie's life. And
I did see him cooking at one point.
He did cook. I quite like the juxtaposition they had between he was cooking alone, and then Hannah came along and cooked with him. That was very nice.
Hannah?
I think her name was Hannah. Something like that.
I thought it was Gemma. But I don't know either.
Could have been Gemma, who knows?
Could have been Jenna. Hannah.
He's a smooth guy with he's sliding into those DMs when he goes, I was in a similar situation with mate, and we lost the quarterfinal. That was a real low point.
DM?
Direct message.
Did he say that?
No, he didn't say that, but he messaged her on Facebook, and he was like,
"Oh yeah,
I know how you're feeling," and that they made that appear like that was the first time that ever
spoken.
But I wonder if it was. Maybe it wasn't. But
I'm convinced it was.
These are the facts were given in this movie. The only facts we have. So
yeah, well, it is a documentary, and it does have to speak for itself, and I'm not sure it did that too well. I did learn a thing or two about Richie McCaw.
Mm-hmm.
He's got pretty bad cauliflower ears.
Oh, his ears are... I hated looking at them, actually, but I couldn't take my eyes off them.
No, I couldn't take my eyes off them.
It's like the sun. You don't want to look at it, but you can't take your eyes off it once you're looking at it.
I'm glad you added once you're looking at it, because I'm just like once you go outside, you can't take your eyes off the sun.
You can't look up, yeah.
Well, I kept looking at his ears and I kept looking at his teeth, and Dan Carter was much more attractive any time he came up, and I was wondering why Richie McCaw got such a beating through his career, and Dan Carter just kept looking.
Well, Dan Carter's a pretty boy. He's a bit of a SBW, a Sonny Bill Williams.
Oh yeah. No, you're right there. I don't know much about rugby, so.
Just to sum up the whole movie, he won 2 World Cups back-to-back, a feat that had never been done by any other team. Any other man single-handedly led the All Blacks to victory 2 World Cups in a row.
Yeah. And both were against France? No. Only one was against France again.
No, it was the Wallabies in 2011, then I believe it was the Springboks.
Oh, yeah, there was the semi-finals or something against France. Yeah. Is there anything... I think we should talk about his crosswords really quickly.
That was another big hobby of his, yeah.
Yeah. There was a certain scene. I didn't go into this movie thinking it would be a comedy. No. But I certainly walked out of it knowing it was.
It was, yeah.
There was a scene where he's doing his throughout the whole film, he's doing these crosswords. He's doing them on He's doing them on the plane. That's combining 2 of his hobbies.
People keep interrupting him while he's just trying to sit there. The man's trying to sit there.
He has to sign their crosswords, and then he can go back to his crossword. Mm-hmm. So he's doing his crossword on the plane. He's doing them another time.
He's powering through them. They're no match for him. No. He was a straight-A student in high school.
As well as being a champ on the sports field.
He had it all.
Oh, he did too. And they gave him a lot of shit for being straight-A student and sticking to the books.
He definitely would get shit for it.
But his crossword, though, that there's one crossword that much like his other hobby, rugby, there was the one game that he couldn't do.
It's typical that the cameras were rolling when he couldn't do this.
Oh, right? Yeah. So there's the game that he couldn't play against France. Oh, he played it, but he couldn't, he wasn't, it was tricky. and then as well, like parallel with that hobby, there was his crossword hobby, which he couldn't do. He turned to Jenna. He was doing it, and he said, "Oh, this is a tricky one, eh, Jenna?" And she said, "What did she say?"
She said something about, aren't they all tricky for you, Richie?
And he just, like she'd let something slip she shouldn't have.
He's like we're filming a movie here. I'm trying to make me look good here. Don't bag on me about my crosswords.
That was the first sign of somebody making a joke in his expense throughout the whole film. Except for Australia when they called him a grub.
Yeah, they were awful to him. Poor Richie.
But when that crossword scene came up, we didn't do it any justice. You have to see this great film to appreciate that. When that crossword scene came up, me and Cameron were in hysterics.
I could hardly contain myself from laughter.
And I'll tell you what else. Before the film, Cameron was also in hysterics at something he saw on Reddit.
It's a little life pro tip I discovered today. If you ever want to save cutlery and bowls, not cutlery I suppose, just bowls, use the sink as a giant cereal bowl. Perfect.
Now Cameron was laughing probably the hardest I've ever seen him laugh at that, and I personally don't find that very funny.
Yeah, it's one of these things where you can't find it all funny.
No. I just don't think it's very funny.
It was funny. Let me tell you, it was funny at the moment.
So that was the first movie we saw today.
What would you give it out of 5?
Chasing Great.
Yeah.
I'll say that's chasing after a big 5.
Yeah.
And it caught it.
I've got to agree with you there. It's chasing after a 5 and it scores the 5.
Mm-hmm. That movie was facing France and it pulverized.
Pulverized, as it was supposed to.
As it was supposed to. It was just informative. It was eye-opening. And most of all, it was humble. The poster is a giant picture of Richie McCaw's face.
Yep.
Lots of shots of him flying his glider around and doing crosswords. Okay, so the second movie we saw today was a little something called Nerve. Ugh. A little something called Nerve. And it feels like it's set in the future, but it's not. It's set in it's a real contemporary movie. It's about it's like an app that's going around. It's an app, and there's 3 categories that you can go into when you play the app. Sort of like when you go into RuneScape or something, you can choose to be a mage, or you can choose to be a warrior.
Saying there's 3 categories is a little misleading. There's only 2. You're a player or you're a watcher, really.
Yeah. So
it's a real simple game, and you either fall into one of 2 categories. I feel like
you got to be one of the categories to get to the 3rd category. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah. So the watchers they watch, as the trailer so aptly informs us. So the watchers watch, and they're sort of the they make the app tick. They set dares out for the players to sort of perform, and when the players complete the dares, they get paid.
Yeah.
And the dares can be quite outlandish and like quite extreme.
It starts off innocently, really. No one's getting hurt there. It'll be things like make out with a stranger for 5 seconds, $100, easy money, really.
But as Michael Douglas learned, nothing's as it seems.
Yeah, games really.
It's quite
steps up a notch.
Yeah, things are placed by the watchers.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens is we meet our girl, V, and she's a shy girl, and she doesn't sort of go outside her comfort zone too much. But her best friend Sydney, she's a player in this Nerve app, and she does things like flash her ass at the cheerleading.
Yep, she does do that.
And V sort of looks at her like, come on, Sydney, grow up a bit. But V is, how does she get into it? She likes this guy, and Sydney sort of ruins it for her and says she's boring. And so so V goes home and she signs up to this app to be a player. And
it's interesting the way they approach these things and how they got her to become a player. It's really one of those classic tales of peer pressure and things like that. And I think it tries to be very modern and very with the kids. And this is how the kids live in this future world and everything's bad.
Well, it's not the future world, it's just our world.
It's not future, it's our world. It's very present. It tries to be very modern. And it's living in the connected society we live in, where everyone's live streaming, they're tweeting, they're blogging, they're Facebooking. Everyone's Facebooking.
And you want to be the best. You want to have the most views. You want to be Insta famous. That's what it's sort of going for, and the dangers of that, even though I don't see too many dangers. Because this is an entirely fictional app, which is dangerous.
It is, but I can see parents walking in on this movie believing that this is the type of stuff that kids are doing these days.
Oh yeah, absolute propaganda.
I don't think it really is, but it is. It's very. It makes good points about the need to be viewed and the desire of what you want in life.
But also, it makes an argument of a want to be anonymous and a want to stay in the background and want to watch. There's the two. With the internet, you can do both. But you can do both simultaneously. But there are both options, and depending on what you want to do, you can either feel in the limelight or you can feel not responsible for anything. If you can feel, in the background making things go.
Oh, definitely. And similar to how it approaches anonymity, I've been watching the newsroom lately.
Oh, yeah.
And they had an interesting situation where Lollipop wrote in an offensive comment and they read it on the news. And so he wanted a new initiative. This was Jeff Daniels, one of this. He wanted a new initiative where everyone has to sign up with their registered name in the thing they use with the IRS. And so that everyone's verified. Everyone's got their name, their occupation, things like this.
What?
And they hack that system. And so someone hacks that system and gives them a death threat. And so it's still, even in a world where everything is not anonymous, you can still be anonymous. There's ways.
Oh, definitely. There'll always be ways to be anonymous. People value their privacy more than anything, especially with the internet.
Give me liberty or give me death.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
Well, that's what I always say as well. I say that every night before I go to sleep.
After I'm kissing my Bible and blessing my mother's soul.
My picture of my poster of Edward Snowden, giving a quick peck on the lips.
I bathe myself in holy water and kiss Mother Teresa on the head.
Who's just become a saint. You see that?
I did.
Oh, yeah. Well. But
back to Nerve.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept, and it tackles social issues like they're nothing.
Tackles them like they're Richie.
As Richie would tackle them, this movie tackles them. It's the DP in this movie, the director of photography, not the other kind.
Yeah.
He, maybe she, not quite, didn't catch their name.
No, I think it was a guy.
Interesting approach to this movie where he captures the LED nation that surrounds New York.
Definitely. That neon sort of concrete jungle.
It's a very concrete jungle indeed. That's a good way to put it, Zach.
Oh, definitely. I think the director captures our generation as a whole in a very accurate and charming way.
He definitely does, and I'm very proud of his work for this one because it's quite spectacular. I quite like the casting of Dave Franco as the main character, Ian. He was very interesting. Or what?
Sam, actually.
Sam.
His name was in the end.
Oh. He was always Ian to me.
Yeah, well, yeah. He wasn't Sam until the last 5 seconds.
Yeah. But he had quite nice pecs, and I really think it was nice against the other girl.
Oh, against Emma Roberts.
Against Emma Roberts, yeah.
The two of them were running down an escalator. And in the nud, as they'd say, the result of a dare. And Dave Franco, his pectorals were jumping around like they were Eskimos in a sea of lava.
Certainly.
Whereas Emma Roberts, the main actress who played V, her breasts were in a sort of stasis.
They were like Eskimos in ice.
They were like Eskimos, yeah. Yeah, they were like tiny, well, not tiny, but they were like gyroscopes. They were like steady cams on her chest.
They definitely were.
They did not move with her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what would you give this movie out of 5?
Well, it's difficult to say. After comparing it to Chasing Great, it's kind of... I feel like it's unfair to Chasing Great. But I would also give this movie a 5.
Oh, yes. It's like comparing, say, we've got as a 5 out of 5 movie Jaws compared to Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, yeah.
One's a shark, one's a dinosaur.
It's very hard to compare the two, really. They're completely different animals and different needs and desires. But there's... excuse me. They're still both 5-star movies in their own right.
Definitely. I give this movie, though, a... let me just hack into the deep web here. I'm just getting a result up. It's a 5 as well.
You got a 5. That's 2 5s from us and 2 5s for Richie. A total of 20 points out of 20 points.
For the 2 movies. If they were one movie, they would be a 10 out of 10.
Definitely.
So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And it's been good. I have to go to the bathroom, so that's why I sort of cut this a bit short.
It's been my absolute pleasure bringing this to you tonight. We'll be back next week with some more stories, some more movies, possibly. Never know what else.
You never know what we bring to the table. Could be a dead rat like a little cat brings in from outside. Could be a bird that a small little kitten's brought in from outside. Could be a tiny little mouse with a bell tied to it that the cat's brought in from outside.
It could be a stray dog found with the name Lucky on his tag. And we could say, oh, we're feeling lucky, aren't we?
Oh, feeling lucky. Who are we, Google? Okay.
Oh.
Have a good night, fellas.
Have a good night. This is Cameron signing off.
And Zach.